Welcome into this edition of Blue Sky Live on this Wednesday morning. I'm Chase Parham and I'm running solo today. Neil taking a few well-deserved days off. We kind of both are. He's headed out today. I am headed out on Saturday. So you're going to get all your content, but I don't know how often the two of us are going to be in the same room for the next probably I guess week or so. But again, plenty of stuff in MPW Digital, and we will have some shows together too. But just kind of giving you a little heads up here as we kick off today's show. I got a few topics, but whatever you guys want to talk about too. Appreciate everybody already jumping out in the stream. We are getting going a little early today, and that's I kind of like it. I like the earlier start. Hopefully, it doesn't affect our crowd too much as we're growing, not just with Ole Miss fans, but with other fans around the SEC. It's an interesting thing because Neil and we probably don't always realize some of the reach we've thought that we've had. Obviously a market leader for a number of years, but we're learning that some of you guys are just now discovering us. So I appreciate you who are doing that as we're getting going. About 7:25 right here this morning. I've got a few things going on. This was just kind of worked out better for me today with the bye week and trying to fit some stuff into that. So we'll get into plenty of stuff here with you today. But again, be a little active in the comments. Tell me what you guys want to talk about. We'll talk about it, and we'll just kind of hang out a little bit with you. No, Siski has not quit podcasting. I just saw that. All right, podcast brought to you every day by BlueSky locations across the state of Mississippi, up and down I-55, throughout North Mississippi as well. And look, they'll take care of your catering. We've been telling you about that, but it's true, whether it be in the Grove for tailgating, whether that be corporate events, family, just taking care of a Wednesday night when you got church or soccer or softball or whatever else is going on. They can help you there with Blue Sky and Sweet Daddies. And we're not in the Clark Ford studio, but the Clark Ford studio is in Oxford, Clark Ford in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900, Highway 25 South. Corey wants to be your truck guy, wants to be your car guy. He will take care of you. Just give him a call, no matter where you are in the process. He'll give you plenty of information, move you along there with Clark Ford, and then all guests are joining on the Campbell Clinic hotline. The Campbell Clinic is now in Oxford. They're pediatric orthopedic specialist and will take care of you. Give them your give them your business. Give them a call when you have some injuries there with Campbell Clinic. Yeah, get your coffee going. I've got mine going. I think I'm on cup, I don't know, 2 or 3. I kind of lost camp this morning. I slept pretty well, but a little behind as I got going. So trying to catch up with the caffeine. Good to see the regulars, Tupelo. Good to see you, Sammy, all the guys. Cole, yeah, great visiting with you yesterday. Yeah, quick thing on that, and then we'll kind of get going. Had our final book signing for kind of segment 1 of the fall, because the way this book thing works, you kind of release it, you do some events, then you may kind of take a little break, do some more right there around Christmas. We were in Tupelo yesterday and had a great turnout, especially for Tupelo. It exceeded my expectations. Will Klein and John Gatlin joined us, former Ole Miss players. So good to see some of you guys there. We had a great time at Reed's and Gumtree Books there in Tupelo. Also went to number 1 yesterday. Really appreciate anybody who has purchased our book so far, Stories from Ole Miss Baseball. I just happened to be scrolling around and noticed that they released the top 10 sales in Mississippi for books, and we were number 1 this week. So I appreciate everybody who has helped out, spread the word, bought a book, or taken part in that. We had good laughs yesterday because I think Mike stole it from Skip Bertman once, but Will was entertaining the masses with a story of he was on the mound struggling in a game, and Mike walked out and said, it's not your fault for sucking. It's my fault for signing you and recruiting you. And everybody always got a big laugh out of that. So I appreciate Will and John and them giving us their time last night, and really all the former players who have been with us from the 20 or so there in Oxford to Bernie Hutchinson and Chris Snowpeck, who were in Jackson last week as well. So anyway, appreciate that. Lane Kiffin on Pardon My Take this morning. I watched it before we started the show. He was really good. I know it's not surprising, but he's sort of been in rare form here in the last couple of weeks. You see the comfort, you see how much he likes his team. It's one thing that Lane does give away in some ways is you go back over the last few years, and if you listen to him, especially as the season gets going, he has sort of his general impressions that he will give you in August and what he's thinking, and there's some subtext. It's one of the reasons why I like look some of the people that don't subscribe to us or some of our competitors, they sort of make fun of Neil's what he said, what he meant, but at times there's so much value there because Lane does try to speak to the players through the media, and you get a little bit of subtext to what he is thinking, even though he's incredibly honest. You look back and that 23 team he likes so much from how they came together, how they stayed together, they win the 11 games, the program record, all that stuff, and he always sort of created a juxtaposition to the 22 team that he thought. And I look, 22 was some of Lane's fault as well because you had Arkansas and Auburn and all the stuff going on. But the juxtaposition between 22 and 23 and how much he liked that group and how much they gelled together. And while last year they lose all three one possession games, we've covered that 1,000 times. We're not going to do it again. But he did like the fact that they hung in there, that they didn't separate, that they finished well, that they did seem to like each other. And I think with this group, there's a lot of program expectations because Lane Kiffin expects to win. You expect to reload. But I'm not sure anybody knew exactly what to look for. And it's a very tough group. It's a poised group. You lose your quarterback, and we're going to talk a good bit about Trinidad Chambliss today because everybody's talking about Trinidad Chambliss at this point. But it's a group that looks even more poised and even more set to win close games than maybe you anticipated or maybe you feared or whatever the word would be prior to the season. And it's a note where I as much as Big Cat and PFT and those guys on Pardon My Take, as much as they typically kind of get it right, and I think it's one of the best sports podcasts out there, I thought the opening question was weird this morning. And again, you can watch it. It's on the internet. It's YouTube, whatever. It's maybe so one of the top 5 sports podcasts in the world. The first question was, hey, you beat LSU and you kind of showed your arrival and used some words like that. And I thought, that's so not right. And Lane kind of fought back on it at the same time. And he goes, well, we beat number 2 Georgia last year. We had the same announcers and everything, the same time slot. I mean, he really kind of, in a polite way, in a fun way, but he fought back on that narrative. And in my head, as I'm listening to it, I think that's just one of the many things that a playoff run or a playoff berth gives Ole Miss is it allows that just 10,000 feet take to be that Ole Miss has simply arrived as an elite program under Lane Kiffin, that the record of 26-5 in the last 31 and all that kind of stuff takes center stage to where they are, because I think there's just this nagging thing for the people that are, again, 10,000 feet in the air and don't see it on a day-to-day level that, hey, Ole Miss is a very, very good but not the next step program, and there's that next step. And I just thought that's, for a team that has won at least 10 games 3 out of the last 4 years, at least right now, well-suited to potentially do it again. It was an odd opening frame that the LSU win was this cathartic victory, and it came from a national broadcast, when the entire scope of since Saturday has been the fans didn't rush the field, the team expected to win, Ole Miss was favored, all those elements, and yet it was passing. I'm not trying to make too big of a deal out of it, but Lane in some ways had to defend that train of thought to Big Cat this morning, to Dan Katz. So yeah, just an interesting little note as we're getting started, because I thought, there's just still this thing that has to happen for this Ole Miss program, and the answer is you have to reach the college football playoff. Simple as that. That's where they are, and Look, they're well on their way through 5 weeks, 5-0, ranked fourth in the country. And the poll mechanics thing, I saw a post on the board maybe last night, maybe this morning. Do polls matter? And the answer is no, not really. But there is an element, because if you are higher ranked than the rest of whatever blank loss teams there are out there, and you lose, or there's a pecking order, you are likely not to fall beyond the other teams that have the same amount of losses. And in that context, when you're talking about thin margins, and if you're thinking about the fact that Ole Miss could be 10-2 at the end of the season, polls 100% matter. Now, is it the AP poll that matters? No, it's the college football playoff rankings. But once those rankings start coming out, if you are 8-2 when those rankings come out, and you're the top ranked 2-loss team, I'm just making up numbers, you get my point. That's a much bigger, better position to be than 8-2 and be the third 2-loss team right there. And when you're number 4 in the country in the AP, there is just human bias and human situations to this where they are likely going to rank you higher in the college football playoff rankings at the beginning as well if you have a high AP note. And Ole Miss is getting a lot of mileage out of beating LSU on Saturday from that. So in that context, I think it matters. I truly do think that there is something to being in Ole Miss's position right now, going into this bye week at a really good time. Lane admitted this morning that they're using 2 days this week to go ahead and get some Georgia prep out of the way. Obviously have Washington State next week. And look, I was doing a bit on the podcast on Saturday. I was doing a bit when I mentioned landmines on X or on Twitter this week. Washington State is not going to be a relevant opponent to Ole Miss next week. Ole Miss is going to be able to win that game to whatever score they deem necessary to win that game. So Lane said, look, we're doing a lot of advanced stuff on Georgia, spending 2 days on the Bulldogs because they come up after Washington State. And it's a good time in some ways for a bye week too for Ole Miss because they're already pretty healthy. They can fix some bumps and bruises and the stuff that just happens over the course of an SEC football season. But in addition to that, it's kind of letting some of this air and bulletin board stuff and media stuff get out of the way. Sometimes you don't necessarily want to go back into a huge game immediately where all this fluff is coming. And that's not fluff, it's real. But the Trinidad Chambliss situation of him becoming this national name all of a sudden, we're going to get to more of that in a minute. I've got that on my list. Or Ole Miss jumping up into whatever they are, they can really take a complete breather here in some ways for a couple weeks, let all that dissipate, and then get back to their season. I mean, it's just a phenomenal schedule related to what you could have in the SEC. It's a fantastic schedule in so many different ways. Jeff, yep, I've got that here. I meant to mention it yesterday and forgot. Again, we use ChatGPT to pick a letter. After the letter, we choose a name. The Realtree.com winner this week is Abby Hardy. You will get an email from Realtree on that for this week. Again, we got some big prizes coming. We're kind of getting into the end of the first half of the season here, but it's going to elevate from what is being given away, and we'll announce some of those and talk about that as those weeks get here. JM, I've heard that sentiment from a lot of Ole Miss fans. I says I pray to sweet baby Jesus not 9-2 going into Starkville. I understand the thought, and I understand what you're saying. I completely get it. The other side of that is you would be 9-2, and you would be in the playoff with nothing more than a win over Mississippi State. And I think going into the season, anybody would have taken that. So I also understand and recognize the inverse when it comes to that. Thank you guys also for doing the Realtree giveaway every week. We had a record number of entrants this week. I don't know exactly what it was, but I know that I get them in a lot of places. I get them in my DMs on Rebels 24/7. I get them in my Twitter DMs. I get emails, and I had several hundred emails even here this week. So just thank you for that. You guys are really engaged and really doing that. Tupelo Rebel says, He'd try to win and get to Atlanta. If we're going 10-1, going to Starkville, does Lane sit the starters? Just kidding. Here's the deal on that, and I wanted to look at some of this because I do. I think it's a good time for a bit of a breather and to look at some of the metrics and the gambling lines and those type of deals. Nash says, what is the timeline to enter the giveaway? I know it's after the show, but is it like before Monday? I cut it off. I started going into Tuesday of when I want to pick the winner. So I'm cutting it off around 4 o'clock on Monday afternoon. It's kind of what I'm doing because there are a lot of people that listen to the post-game show on Monday, and I don't want to alienate all of those potential entrants. So JM says, also bought my new Ole Miss Realtree pattern hoodie yesterday. They look great. I know a couple people that bought those. Realtree has started releasing, Realtree is not releasing. They're a pattern. Providers are starting to release their apparel and gear with the new Realtree pattern. Nike did that yesterday. Hayden, no, Neil's not in Wrigley. He is not in Chicago. He's taking a little vacation, but not in Chicago. Cubs did win yesterday, 3-1. Over the Padres. So here's where I was at here. And SEC championship game winners on futures. I'm on DraftKings reading this off right now. Alabama is the betting favorite. A lot of people still just kind of bet on the Tide. I know they lost to Florida State, but this is a little schedule related. This is the win over Georgia because they are undefeated in the SEC. And again, this is not to reach the SEC championship. This is to win the SEC championship game. Alabama plus 260. That means for any non-gamblers that you have to bet $100 to win $260. So 2.5 to 1-ish odds there on that. Texas at number 2 feels like a terrible bet. Texas still plus 380, and I get where they're standing in the league, but that feels absolutely flimsy in every in every way. Ole Miss number 3. Ole Miss plus 600 right now. Ole Miss plus 600, so 6 to 1 odds for Ole Miss to win the SEC championship. Georgia plus 650, so just a little worse there for the Bulldogs, even though they have a loss. Texas A&M plus 800, probably not completely worth the flyer, except the whole Texas A&M is going to lose games it shouldn't at some point because that's just what they do. Oklahoma plus 1,100, I don't like that at all with John Mateer being banged up. LSU plus 1,600. Hate that. Tennessee plus 1,800. I mean, look, if you're going to throw the Hundy spot out there or the 20 just for the heck of it, it's Missouri at plus 1,800, guys. That's just what it is. Bill Connolly for his SP plus, and again, it's just a mathematical formula. We talked about it yesterday. He had Ole Miss, the number 1 team from an SP plus standpoint, to win the SEC, and he had Missouri number 2. And DraftKings right now giving you plus 1,800 on Missouri. The fact that Missouri is plus 1,800 and Texas is plus 380 is mind-boggling to me, and it tells you that lines aren't, and we know this already, lines are not there to predict outcomes. Lines are there to get certain betting results for the house. And maybe there's not a better definition of that than what we're looking at right here, because Texas plus 380, wow, boy. Missouri plus 1,800. Vanderbilt plus 3,500, Florida plus 7,500, Auburn 15,000, and then Arkansas, Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Kentucky. Tupelo, are you allowed to say what percentage of sales Realtree gets from these sales? I have no idea, Tupelo. I'm not avoiding that. I just don't know. I have no idea what the answer is there. Tupelo, also, it's just a different world now. A 4-7 state team with 7 straight losses at 11 a.m. isn't the same as a 2009 4-7 Mississippi State. Yeah, you just don't know what state's going to be. They played really hard in a weird environment on Saturday at home against Tennessee. I give them a lot of credit for that. But they do have losses coming. They're going to lose in College Station this weekend. And those losses have emotion. You actually feel the losses. It's not just the paper losses where you wake up and go, okay, 4-7, but let's go get one for the Gipper right now. Jeff Levy's going to still have his work cut out for him. He's done a hell of a job this year. They're better. They're a lot better. Blake Shapen's underrated as a quarterback because he's the quarterback at Mississippi State. He's better than a lot of the quarterbacks that are out there in the SEC, but State is just a non-factor from winning the conference, being competitive in the conference standpoint. So because of that, he doesn't quite get the pull that you would expect. Heisman. Let's see real quick. I want to go over the Heisman stuff too. Let's do that real quick, or at least in a second. Might come back and do it after a quick break, but let's see real quick. Futures. Sorry, you got it here. When you're by yourself doing it, it takes a little time for a second. All right, here we go. No, I mean, Ginger, right? The state has a tough schedule, but they'll get up for Ole Miss. They will. I mean, there's no doubt. Look, that's not going to be the easiest game in the world, but there aren't easy games. But there are games where you're going to be favored by more than a touchdown. That's where Ole Miss is in such good shape right now, because there's one game where Ole Miss is not going to be favored for 100% fact. And I am completely of the thought process that 10-2 is getting you into the college football playoff. Period. End of story. Done. I just do not believe a Lane Kiffin coach team with Trinidad Chambliss as its quarterback out of the SEC is getting left out at 10-2. Maybe somebody gets left out and they will be completely pissed. It's not going to be Ole Miss. I've been around too long. It's my 21st year of doing this at the college level. No, Ole Miss is not getting left out at 10-2. They're just not. Heisman Trophy odds. Trinidad Chambliss, number 6. Number 6 in those odds. Tupelo, Henry's guys is back on a regular schedule. I don't know what we're doing tomorrow night. So let me put that caveat in. But beyond that, yeah, all the way through basketball, moving forward, we're on Thursdays. We just had 2 weeks where Wednesday made more sense because of what was going on. Clay Smith says, what about 10-3? It's in. The SEC championship game loser is 100% not getting punished for losing the SEC championship game. Not a thing. Both teams who were in the SEC championship game are getting into the playoff. Period. End of story. I don't want to even waste mental or emotional energy of you guys on that. Trinidad Chambliss plus 1,500. It's even up one note from yesterday. Yesterday, Trinidad Chambliss was plus 1,600. 16-1 to win the Heisman Trophy. Today, 1,500. Dante Moore at Oregon, the favorite. That's not surprising coming off the win over Penn State on Saturday. Plus 750. Ty Simpson has played incredibly well. He's plus 850. The runner-up right now. Had the big game against Georgia. Jeremiah Smith, not shocking. Ohio State plus 1,000. Carson Beck plus 1,100. Miami's really good, so I understand why he's there. Fernando Mendoza in Indiana, look, good player, 12-1. He's not winning the Heisman Trophy unless Indiana goes on some storybook run. Next up, 2 dudes from the SEC, Trinidad Chambliss plus 1,500. Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt quarterback, plus 1,700. So the Ole Miss quarterback and the Vanderbilt quarterback are number 6 and number 7 going into October. It's October 1. We're not just in September anymore. We're not early for the Heisman Trophy. Talk about how far people fall, how quickly things have changed. Garrett Nussmeier, Arch Manning, they are at plus 3,000 each. Neither one of them is going to win the Heisman Trophy. They have double the odds of Trinidad Chambliss. The amount of psychotic drugs you would have been giving any of us had we said in early August, hey, here's what's going to happen, guys. So Nussmeier and Arch completely out of the Heisman conversation by October the 1st. Trinidad Chambliss, number 6, 15-1. There you go. Not just an SEC quarterback, because you could have even kind of balled Austin a little bit with some of the preseason stuff that he had going on. But Trinidad Chambliss. Tupelo, can you imagine a 10-3 Ole Miss SEC runner-up getting left out for 10-2 Tennessee team who didn't make Atlanta? Sankey would never hear the end of it. Yeah, I don't see how that would. That's not even a one team being left out thing. That's the entire conference going, whoa, 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 no way. We are not doing that. Not doing that at all. So no, I'm not going to spend time on that. And again, I'm not criticizing you. It's a really good question because I get it. A 3-loss team making the playoff is a 3-loss team making the playoff. But SEC championship loser is 100% in. There's no doubt about that. All right, we'll continue the conversation second. First, I'm going to tell you about NE Spark, the fastest, most reliable fiber internet option available. Whether you're streaming the Rebels or connecting with family and friends, They offer both residential and business packages with speeds up to 2 gigabits. To learn more, register for service. That's AnySpark.com. AnySpark, get connected and stay local. For anyone moving to Oxford, and that's a lot of you guys, you are invading the town, moving in all the time, getting our real estate prices up. Check out Jackson Graber Group, John Graber with GMFS Mortgage here in Oxford, local trusted mortgage lender here locally. Help all home buyers with first home, new construction, refinance. Graduated from Oxford High, Ole Miss alum, knows the market, knows the area, knows Oxford, local in-house processing, underwriting, servicing, and construction. Wide range of loan options, including conventional FHA, VA, USDA, jumbo construction, licensed in many states. So buying a home, refinancing, or just have questions. That's gmfsmortgage.com/JGG, 662-762-4502. Also been telling you about our internship program. Appreciate the firm for handling that. Got more content coming from Peyton here this week. And then when we get into women's basketball and stuff, really a lot churning out there from them. Kennedy handles our graphics every week. We really appreciate our students, and we appreciate the firm. It's a proud Liberty Mutual and Safeco Insurance Agency partner. So if your insurance keeps going up, take a look. Founded by Ole Miss alum Brian Hayden, they service the entire Southeastern Conference footprint. Let their team of licensed professionals review your insurance needs and put together coverages that protect you and your family without breaking the bank. Schedule a consultation, 662-236-1101. Staff at thefirmsouth.com. That's 662-236-1101. Staff at thefirmsouth.com. Podcast brought to you by New Albany Pharmacy.com. New Albany Pharmacy and Solutions. In New Albany, 140 Fairfield Drive. You can contact them at 662-539-7777. But like I'm saying, check out the website. So much there. They've completely changed up the site. They give you all the information. It's a family-owned pharmacy with excellent service, wide range of gifts for all ages, as well as home decor, jewelry, and more. Tell them you heard about them from MPW Digital and get 15% off any non-medical purchase. And Chicory Market and Johnson Hill Creamery, johnsonhillcreamery.com. Look, a lot of home games left. You guys got 8 of them this season. So because of that, Johnson Hill Creamery takes orders all the way into the week of the game. They can hook you up with charcuterie trays, sandwich trays. They feed 20, 40, or 60. Take your pick. Desserts, so many different options. Or just stop in. They're located inside Chicory Market. They make all their cheeses locally and in-house every single day. Again, johnsonhillcreamery.com and chicorymarket.com is the website, located on North Lamar. If you're local, just head on in. Again, people moving here every day. Check in. See what all the organic, the local items they have for you. They also have a lot of different vendors and contributors there inside their store on North Lamar. And the Friday Supper Clubs, they've been incredibly popular. So they will still hook you up the Friday before all Ole Miss home football games. Only Florida sold out. 4-course meals. You reserve your spot ahead of time. It's great. chicorymarket.com. We'll get to more of our business here in a little bit. So that's your Heisman odds right now. Again, Trinidad Chambliss 15-1. The Missouri quarterback, Bo Pribula, is 3,500 plus 3,500, so 35-1 for him. Just looking for any more awards that look notable, but it's not. Let's see. One second. Get Missouri at, let's see, plus 1,800 to be undefeated this season. Missouri, if you think they might go 12-0 and run the table, 18-1 odds on that. Ole Miss, you're not getting a ton of odds here. This, from a betting public standpoint, this might be the bigger number that I've ever seen. This is kind of nuts from an Ole Miss standpoint. I just stumbled on this. So DraftKings right now taking bets for Ole Miss, whether they will or will not go undefeated, on a no, which that's the obvious bet for any team in college football, minus 1,200. So in some ways, 12-1 is not the worst bet for any team to just lose a game at some point in the season. I thought that would be higher than that. And a plus, you're not getting great odds on something here. Only plus 650 if you think Ole Miss is going to go undefeated and go 12-0. So you're only getting 6x your money on an undefeated season for Ole Miss at 12. That's something. Seriously, I'm a little surprised by that. Continuing the Trinidad Chambliss love for the week. ESPN yesterday ranking their all Power 4 quarterbacks 1 month into the season. Again, just an example of how much things have changed here as we enter October. Bill Connolly doing that. Real quick, let me find that answer for Nash. He says, what's Haynes King's Heisman odds? Let me go back. I've got it here. Hold on. Because he is on the list. But that Georgia Tech game against Wake Forest has me hitting pause a little bit on the Jackets, even though plus 3,000. So 30-1 there for Haynes King at Georgia Tech. He is the same as Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, Ahmad Hardy at Missouri, and Arch Manning at Texas. All 30-1, plus 3,000 on those. Bill Connolly rating the quarterbacks 1 month into the season. He mentions that Clay Klubnik's team's 1-3, and he's 94th in total QBR, a guy that was a preseason All-American. But look, I feel justified on that one. Clay Klubnik was never the best quarterback in the country. He just wasn't. I mean, it's just not even. It's not even a question. So I feel very justified in their failure. Kind of enjoyed Dabo's failure a little bit. Preseason Heisman favorite Arch Manning, 71st in total QBR. Sam Levitt, Nico Iamaleava, Drew Aller, all playoff quarterbacks in 24, 61st in QBR, 76th in QBR, 88 in QBR. And then the group that is taken off, and it includes one Trinidad Chambliss. Right now, Jaden Miava at USC is rated the number 1 quarterback in the country. They lost Illinois. It wasn't necessarily his fault, but he is the number 1 quarterback nationally in QBR, which is ESPN's preferred quarterback metric at this point. He is number 1. Then number 2 and number 3, Diego Pavia, number 2, Vanderbilt. Number 3, Trinidad Chambliss. ESPN has him the number 3 quarterback in the country 1 month into the season. And again, he didn't play the first 2 games. So anything from a stat standpoint, you have to really keep into the account of what this looks like. And I do think he's gotten so much play so quickly that the stat thing, as long as he continues to play well, because a lot of times the Heisman voters focus so much, and I can't believe we're having this discussion, but it's where we are here on a bye week, so why not? Whatever. In some ways, I kind of feel like another Ole Miss podcast by having this conversation, but there's nothing about Ole Miss's schedule or what we see that does not make it a completely relevant conversation on whether Trinidad Chambliss can at least get invited to New York City for the Heisman Trophy. Neil wrote it on Sunday, and I'm not getting ahead. I'm not looking ahead. I'm simply looking at odds, where he's ranked, and outlining through 3 starts for Trinidad Chambliss what this thing looks like and what it could look like as we move forward. And he's just not. Saturday was such a big win because I think Rippey and Weldon did it the other day of talking about the games that Trinidad has won as a starter in his career. And they're reading off all the Division II teams that he beat. I think Lane mentioned one today was Roosevelt College or something. I don't even know where that is. And then it's Arkansas, Tulane. And then LSU LSU's defense is really good. It's bought and paid for. It's a top 5 defense. And I feel like in some ways we're letting the Nussmeier LSU offense running struggles kind of cloud what Ole Miss was able to do on the offensive side of the ball that was so good on Saturday. Because the fumble close to the end zone, the penalties, that was an offense that was ticking far better than 24 points. I know that's what they finished with, but when you look at stats and what they were able to do, holding the ball, playing the preferred brand of football for Lane Kiffin in a lot of ways, it was impressive, probably to a higher rate than we're necessarily talking about because we're focused on so many different elements of that game. Because to clarify a little bit, I've gotten asked this question, it's a valid question, is everybody keeps using the stat that Trinidad Chambliss has at least 300 passing yards and at least 50 rushing yards in his first 3 starts. Or in 3 straight starts. Sorry. It's even more impressive. In 3 straight starts. And that he's the first SEC quarterback I've seen in more than 30 years. I've seen since 1994, the way you want to phrase it. And everybody asks, okay, well, who did it in 93? Why are we using that situation? And it has to be, and I don't know this, but I understand how stats sort of work in this sport. My guess, and I feel pretty confident about this, is that they changed the way that rushing yards for quarterbacks were tabulated in 1994. Records were kept differently, and that's why they've got a splice point on that year and why moving forward. And we can't just say, okay, he's the first person since, Danny Werfel or whatever it is that you've got there, and I'm making up names. Look, we know what football was like in the 90s. You didn't throw it around the way you do today. I don't know this, but there's a very distinct possibility that he's the first person ever. Again, I don't know. But that's not out of the realm. You just didn't throw the ball and have these type of offenses in the 90s and before. So it's possible that we've watched something in 3 weeks that Trinidad Chambliss did that has never been done. It's kind of remarkable. So when I talk about Saturday was just such a special day for Ole Miss, take a minute, breathe it in, enjoy it. And not that you're not. I'm just reiterating. 3-0 in the SEC, threw for 314 against LSU. And here's the deal. I broke it down a little bit on Rebels 24/7 yesterday. Chambliss is 10th in league passing yards, again, because he didn't start the first 2 games of the season. But he's tied with Lenora Sellers for most yards per attempt in the SEC, 10.2. Now, Austin Simmons is 10.4. That's worth saying. That's where we are. Ole Miss's offense works. Here's the more impressive stats. Trinidad Chambliss on deep passes this season. 3 out of 5 for 103 yards outside the left hash. 3 of 4 for 129 between the numbers, between the hash marks. 5 of 6 for 178 outside the right hash marks. He's not throwing them in bad spots, even if he's not necessarily having this bazooka that leads every receiver down the field and is just throwing all these deep balls and all this stuff. He's placing the football so well at the different levels. You've seen that he's played a ton of football. Like I said, I've admitted this fault. And I'm not beating myself up because I think anybody would have had these questions. I think Lane Kiffin had these questions. Was how is he going to transition? And when he came out in that press conference and goes, hey, it's just football. You get out there and you play. I was at Ferris State, but we won. You go, okay, yeah, but it's the SEC. LSU is going to be running at you. It's different. No, it's been great. He was asked today, Lane, that is, this morning on that podcast, when did a light bulb go off and you saw that this is very real with Trinidad Chambliss? When did you see that, hey, he could play? And it's cliche, but cliches are cliches for a reason. It's because they're true. And it's that it was during the scrimmages. Because it's what we saw. And you look back, and this is relevant, guys. We watched a lot of situational, not a lot. We watched some practice access time of Ole Miss doing 7-on-7 and skeleton drills and throwing it around a little bit and kind of playing flag football. Doing a lot of drills that are all about accuracy and arm strength and all that kind of stuff. And Trinidad was fine. But look, I'm give me my dunce hat. I'll put it on, okay? I'll put the dunce hat on. I was an idiot. I watched some of the earlier practices and thought that Trinidad was closer to A.J. Maddox than Austin Simmons. But we saw nothing that was game-type scenarios. We just saw them running around kind of the 7-on-7 version of the Combine where it's underwear Olympics. We didn't see real football. And you thought, okay, it's fine, but it's not what you want to be. But he's not running around. He's not evading pressure. He's not playing his full game in these instances. And then the first scrimmage happened back in August. And it's funny to look at it in hindsight because it actually told us more than we realized. he played really well in scrimmage, and Austin really struggled. Austin had a hard time with some backside coverage stuff, threw some picks. The offensive line was a mess, and he had no protection. And they were out multiple starters on the offensive front. It wasn't Austin's fault. This is not an Austin Simmons criticism situation at all. The scrimmage gave him no chance because of the way the teams were set up personnel-wise. But everybody kind of also said, the sources that we talked to, because we didn't see it personally, hey, just heads up, Trinidad moved around. Like, he moved the offense a little bit. And then the second scrimmage happened. Austin was better. He was good. Hey, Trinidad moved the offense a little bit. You see this in baseball a lot, and I know I bring a lot of things back to baseball because I'm a baseball guy. But some dudes just, when you turn the lights on, it is different, and that exists, and it's real. Dylan DeLucia was like that from an Ole Miss baseball standpoint. Mike Bianco did not like how he practiced in the fall. Did not like how he threw in inter-squads. Hunter Elliott's not a great inter-squad player. You flip the lights on, and both of them will cut you to win. And I think in some ways that's what you have with Trinidad Chambliss. Yeah, I mean, Sammy says wind-up's a bit wonky. Seems a touch problematic. Yeah, look, he's going to get balls knocked down. Tyler did a really good job on the show Saturday night discussing what that means and what that looks like. Because it's not just a height thing. It's the platform of your release point. And Trinidad has a bit of a lower release point. It's probably the biggest criticism you can find for his game is that just the way that his functionality is on his release, he's going to have balls knocked down. I think I think he's going to, I think that's just going to be something to deal with among all the positives as time goes on. Wicked says, I was at the second scrimmage, noticed Trinidad goes absolutely spinning. Told my Twitter fan chat that we would be fine if we had to play our backup. Turns out I was right. You were 100% right. No, it's true. Because there's a certain poise around some guys. And again, I led my reactions with this on Saturday night is we have 2 SEC games of sample size, which is still a small sample size. But it's real. Because against Arkansas, it was 2 different kind of challenges, and he passed both of them. The first was that Taylon Green was going to score. Arkansas had 5 first-half possessions against Ole Miss, 4 touchdowns, missed field goal, 28 points. If Trinidad is not damn near perfect, or the Ole Miss offense is not damn near perfect there in that first half, you're behind, you're chasing, you're swimming. And in his first SEC start, he was matching point for point. Ole Miss had a great first half. Ole Miss scored in every first-half possession through the first 2 starts for Chambliss. And then against LSU, it started bad. LSU was moving faster than Tulane, than Arkansas. He was swimming. Ball was coming out late. And then just kind of figured it out on the fly. And now a ton of credit to Lane Kiffin, to Charlie Weiss Jr., to Fisher Ray. They managed him phenomenally against LSU. You could see help coming in ways that was not as needed and necessary last season with Jackson Dart. I mean, you could see movement on how they were operating with Trinidad as that early part of that game was going on. Because look, here's the deal, and this is the stat above all the stats. He has an interception. The ball was tipped by an Ole Miss player first. I think it was Deuce Alexander. I could be wrong. I don't remember. PFF College, which I hate them for their grades. I think posting PFF College grades are completely useless. I do. Argue with me. It's fine. But I don't like them. They are good with stats, though. They measure a lot of stats that I think are very, very important. They do not have Trinidad Chambliss with, yes, Joe Judge too, Wicked. I shouldn't leave him out. I apologize. Joe Judge, 100% fat. You have an NFL head coach on your roster downstream. PFF College says Chambliss does not have a turnover-worthy throw this season. Not a single one. And that doesn't mean picked off. That means a ball that should have been picked off. Now, the pick six was a problem had they not blown that thing dead with pass interference. That was not good. But no turnover-worthy throws per PFF College. He's also getting the ball out quickly. It's an important stat. He's not getting pressured a ton, and it's because the offensive line is getting better. It's also because he is doing the right things to avoid pressure and to get the ball out before pressure gets there. So he's getting the ball out at every level. No, sorry, let me rephrase. There's not a single level that Trinidad Chambliss is not getting the ball out in 2.95 seconds or earlier on average, meaning screen passes, short throws, intermediate throws, deep passes. Every one of those levels averaging at least 2.95 or less. His deep passes, 2.8 seconds to get the ball out. It's really good. Defenses are blitzing Chambliss 39.1% of the time on passing plays. He's getting pressure 23% of the time. He's evading sacks, moving the pocket. He does a really good job keeping his eyes downfield. And is really not scrambling that much. Only has 7 true scrambles. He has 46 design runs this season. He's run for 266 yards. That's 14th in the SEC overall. By the way, Kejuan Lacey, second in the SEC with 445 yards rushing. Yeah, I saw some LSU people talking about the lopsided officiating the other way. I thought I was taking, again, as I said earlier, kind of thought I was taking crazy pills. Doors Rule said the interception was a great throw. Alexander just slipped. Pick 6 was the right read. Alexander was pulled out of the way, which made it look worse. No, it was 100% a penalty. I mean, it was not even close. It was a penalty. Arguing that it wasn't a penalty makes no sense. Let's take one more break. Tell you about Horn Legend, hornlegend.com. Look, click the drop down, click MPW Digital. They got a ton of stuff. Again, they restocked the Lane Kiffin Realtree Galaxy hoodie that he had on Saturday night. It's a really good looking hoodie. It's got the Realtree logo right there, got the Galaxy pattern. It's fantastic. They restocked that. They've got long sleeve sports shirts. Those run one size small. Polos run one size big. They kind of fit like Peter Millar. Got Collegiate Collection. Got Grove Collective collection coming as well there with Horn Legend. Again, hornlegend.com. Vests, pullovers, quarter zips. So many great stuff there from that company. That is hornlegend.com. Podcast also brought to you by G&M Pharmacy, 662-236-2222. They deliver locally in the Oxford area and the upper med scene. For your prescriptions the same time each week and take care of you. One trip to the pharmacy, one delivery. You have everything you need when you need it from G&M. So again, that is 662-236-2222. Catching up in the stream for a second. No, it's not. It's not even close. That was 100% pass interference on Deuce Alexander. Sammy, the uncomfortable truth is that Trinidad runs this offense better than Simmons could. You just get the feeling Simmons might get nicked again if he runs, in my opinion. Wicked, I have a slight complaint about the new Realtree Nike gear. We've already had our Wear White game, so I don't have anywhere to wear the gear. I think that's like the perfect. I think how you phrase that is perfect. I think slight complaint is 100% the word for that. I get it. Moving Media Day to Tampa, by the way, next year. I know you guys don't care at all. Austin, do the Realtree t-shirt hoodies run small? What brand? And I'll find out. Because, again, Realtree doesn't produce actual product. They are a licensed company that gives the print to apparel dealers and creators. So what brand? Are you talking about Nike or what? And I'll find out and I'll get you an answer. JW Lang, I don't understand why Simmons is considered QB1. He only has 2 starts in his career. Chambliss has 3. Look at the numbers. It's because Simmons beat him out in the preseason. It's because he was the heir apparent and he was making way more money. That's college football today. I mean, it just is. That's college football today. He's on a 7-figure deal. He came in as the starter. That's the way that works. Yeah. BWL, can we wear Realtree helmets twice? Who makes that call? No. You can wear them multiple times. Yeah, I don't know that they will, but they can. That's not a thing. They're okay there. Completely fine. Let's see. I want to look at ratings real quick. I had it up. Ole Miss LSU grabbing a good number yesterday when those were announced. Austin says Nike Realtree Galaxy hoodies. Yeah, let me find out. Well, now, okay, yesterday is not the Galaxy pattern is last year's pattern. That's what Lane was wearing on Saturday. Lane was not wearing the new pattern on Saturday. He had the Galaxy pattern from last year. Give me 1 second. So here we go. A little bit of news on the ratings from last week. Total viewing of college football across all networks still pacing at a record high, up 19% year over year on a 5-year trend of plus 36%. And look, that's a lot of stuff. That's the popularity of college football. That is how many people are just watching at home now. And I don't mean Ole Miss. I mean nationally. People just are not going to games at the clip that they used to because of expenses and because of everything that's involved with that. But that's still a great number for college football. And it's a great number for those of you who are relying on revenue sharing and TV contracts to be footing the bill moving forward because TV is only getting richer and more expensive on ads because of this. Again, 36% in a 5-year period, 19% increase year over year. It's a lot of stuff there. A lot. That's not one note. If you think that's a one note situation, you're wrong. There's a lot there. Wicked's right. Gambling, huge impact on game watching. Yeah, 100%. And as ESPN Bet comes along and you're moving so many different things into that betting sphere, parity, 12-team playoff keeps more fans engaged. It's all of it. It's so many different things. Yeah. I mean, college football from a business standpoint, it's all good. You got it all figured out. Because at the end of the day, people don't care that much what they're getting paid if they're not the one paying them. Just true. Is that accurate? Benny Boy says, I just watched an Auburn podcast where they tried to make the case Ole Miss fans would miss Freeze and would pick him over Kiffin right now. Things are getting dark on the plains if that was a legitimate conversation. Ooh, boy. Wow. I think that take should be pointed out who said that. What podcast was doing that, Benny? Wow. Okay. No, the truth is that Ole Miss fans would not pick any coach in college football over Lane Kiffin right now. Not one. Wow. All right. 10.4 million viewers to ABC for Alabama and Georgia. That was the most watched game of the weekend. It beats the head-to-head matchup against Oregon and Penn State. NBC Peacock for the 8.5 million on that. It's almost 2 million more Alabama, Georgia on ABC versus Oregon and Penn State on NBC. Ole Miss and LSU, the third most watched game of the weekend, 6.7 million on ABC. 6.7. Number 4 for the week, Ohio State and Washington, 5.2 million on CBS. So CBS actually got a reputable number at least. Florida State, Virginia, 4.4, making it ESPN's most watched Friday game ever. That was a fun game. I turned it on, watched it. Phil Stormer was kind of scary there at the end, but credit to the Who's. I kind of like Virginia. I find myself sort of pulling for them when they're playing games. I mean, they're a puppy dog, but they're kind of fun. Notre Dame, Arkansas, that blowout. 4.3 million on ABC. Good triple header from a number standpoint. ABC triple header, as BWL says, glorious. USC, Illinois, good game. 4.1 million on Fox. You'd like a little bigger number if you were USC and Illinois there. That's not your perfect number. I get it's an early game and it's got SC involved and all that, but that's probably a little scary for them. Auburn, Texas A&M, 2.47 million on ESPN. That was going head up against Ole Miss and LSU, so be aware of that when you look at that number. BYU, Colorado, 2.46 on ESPN. Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, 1.8. 9. I mean, let's reiterate this thing again, what CBS could have done. CBS had the best deal in college athletics, maybe just sports, period, rights packages. Perfect. They had a great deal, great price. Decided not to pursue, to pay more, to pay what they should have been paying to some extent. Because what their deal would have been had they just stayed on the track. Think of what their Saturday would have been like. And again, they got a decent number. They got Ohio State winning. It was close for a while. I think Washington scored first. Ohio State was never really in doubt after that. $5.2 million on CBS. Ranked 4th. In the overall, though, that would have been a double header week for CBS. They would have done the early game, and they would have done the night game, and they would have gotten them both, and they would have had Ole Miss and LSU, and they would have pulled down the $6-7 million, and then they would have had Alabama and Georgia, and they would have pulled down the $10-11 million. And instead, they got 5.4 in a game that included Washington, or 5.2 in a game that included Washington. I kind of revel in it every week because it's so ridiculous. They got what they deserved. And yeah, you can flip on ABC and the triple header's glorious, and you just keep it there and you watch some games. Austin, when the SEC expands, with the 2 schools, North Carolina and Virginia, it's a possibility. If it's 4, it gets a little more shaky. I don't know where it goes at 4. But yeah, I do believe that UNC is absolutely the number 1 target. And I think Virginia would be in that next mix. Here's the one that I don't know. I think sometimes people overlook North Carolina State. Maybe that's a hot take. I just am not quite ready to say North Carolina State is not in this conversation. Because footprint doesn't matter. We overplayed that. It's why I 100% agree with the people that think Missouri would not be in the SEC today if we knew today about rights packages and what these things meant that we did then. Back then, it was so obsessed with footprint. What market can we get in? It's why the Big Ten picked up Rutgers. Rutgers. They wouldn't do that today. Not even a little bit. So I just kind of wonder where that looks with that. I don't know what matters. I'm not saying I'm right. I just kind of got this thing in the back of my ear and kind of what I've heard from time to time. I did want to put out the fall real quick. I got off topic a minute ago. I wanted to point out the fall of some of the quarterbacks we're talking about in the preseason, and I guess talk completely about our profession that sucks a lot of the time because we don't know what we're looking at. Talking Heads had all these different guys slated at the top of the list. Quarterback rankings on October 1st. Taylor Green, by the way, 14. Luke Altmaier, 15. I'm still scrolling to get to those 2 guys in the SEC that everybody was talking about. Still scrolling. Marcel Reed, 26. Lenore Sellers, 27. Haynes King at 29. Again, still haven't gotten to those names. Garrett Nussmeier, 37. And now he's hurt, but 37. Arch Manning, 41. I do not believe Clemson is an option. I don't think the SEC has any interest in Clemson. Could be wrong. I don't think SEC has any interest in Texas Tech. Wicked does make a good point. The footprint matters because every game in the SEC gets played at normal hours. No 8 a.m. kicks, no midnight kicks. No. The SEC has done a fantastic job from a time zone standpoint. Now, they went different than the Big Ten because the Big Ten had a different goal. The Big Ten said, hey, we're going to be a national conference. We're the national conference. Look, we stretch from Happy Valley, Pennsylvania, all the way to Los Angeles. And we're this, and we're the big bad. We got all the corporate and the stuff, and we stretch across the country. And the Big Ten's rolling. It worked. I'm not going to say they're wrong. The SEC said, hey, we're playing with our footprint a little bit, and we're getting a little out over our skis in some places where we're not really southeast for sure. But time zones matter. Time zones do matter. There's no, I mean, they just do. Not having the crazy travel, not having the weird time zone kicks. I mean, SC kicking off a game at 9 a.m. in their time zone. Stupid. Tupelo, I just wish we could get the Super League, 2 conferences. I watch the NFL every week and think, man, this is simple. Yeah. And we might. I'm definitely not ready to say that's not the case. We can't be ready to say that's not the case. I don't know what's going to happen there. Scores from yesterday around Major League Baseball. Great game. Skubal was awesome for the Tigers. They knock off Cleveland 2-1 to lead that series. Again, these wild card rounds, 2 out of 3. So the same teams on the same schedule today. If the winner of yesterday wins today, they move on to the NLDS. Tigers 2-1 over the Guardians. 1-0 there. Cubs 3-1 over the Padres. 1-0 there. Cubs over Padres. Red Sox, really good game last night. I watched the end of that. The Yankees loaded the bases with no outs, 1 out, something like that in the 9th inning. Did not score. Red Sox win 3-1 at Yankee Stadium to go up 1-0. And then the Dodgers are up 5-0 early and bombed the Cincinnati Reds 10-5 last night in Game 1 for that one. So, again, that sets up today. Again, noon, ESPN, Tigers, Guardians, 2 o'clock, Padres, Cubs, ABC, Red Sox, Yankees, 5 o'clock, ESPN, and Reds and Dodgers, 8 o'clock on ESPN. I don't see a draft. Your mom says 2 conferences with a high school draft is going to suck. Don't think I'll watch college football once that happens. Yeah, I don't think that's the situation. I don't see a draft. Nobody would agree to that. Neil is not at Wrigley. He is not in Chicago. I don't want to dox him, but he's not in Chicago. Yeah, I don't know why the SEC would want Nebraska. I'm reading from the stream for a minute. I don't see that. Okay. Those are the NBA Major League Baseball games today. Good slate. It was fun yesterday. I mean, I caught myself caring and watching and following it probably more than I kind of would. So, I don't know. Yeah. Real quick, let's do this, and we're talking about Major League Baseball, and then we'll probably get out of here. Athletic this morning. MLB reaching new popularity? Question mark. It's a question. Attendance, 71,409,421 fans, up for the 4th straight year. 4th straight year. Baseball attendance up. TV viewership up across the board, despite the midseason snafu with ESPN. TV viewership up. Average game time, 2 hours and 38 minutes. 3rd straight year, they're going under 240 for a Major League Baseball game. Under 240. They fixed that. And they didn't actually take baseball away. Unlike football, that went, hey, we're going to shorten the games by taking the actual gameplay away, but keeping the commercials the same length. Oh my God. It still drives me freaking mad that was the answer when they shifted the way the clock rules work. Hey, we're going to shorten the games by taking the actual product away from you. Thanks, guys. That's what we want. They deserve for it to not work. Average age in baseball of a single game ticket buyer, 43, down from 46. That's big. Average age falls below 40 if you discuss the secondary market as well. Also, 2026 opening day is going to be aired exclusively on Netflix. That's a new one. That's new. So just a few baseball things to note. Look, baseball is healthy. It's just regional. We've talked about this. You care about your team and the teams in your division. That's who you care about. That's how that works. I'm all for it. I don't think that's even a bad concept. I mean, does it limit you on some of the marketing and things like that? Sure. But overall, I think that makes sense. I'm happy for baseball in that way. There's no doubt about that. So, All right, we are going to wrap it there. Appreciate everybody this morning, getting going early. Be back tomorrow with another podcast. Again, a little disjointed the next 2 weeks, but I appreciate all of you guys so much. I thank you. Can't thank you enough here this morning, and we'll catch you again tomorrow. Take care. Peace.